guys, it's Kat here, and today I'm going to be doing my June wrap up. Obviously it was Pride month in June, so all of these books reflect that. Not that that really makes much difference to every other month, but yes. I'll just jump straight in. I've got nothing else to say. There's no intro. Bang! The first book I read was Frontiera by Giulio Anta and Jacoby Salcedo. And this was an ARC that I received, so most of it was just in black and white because it's not done yet. But there is a nice little section at the beginning that shows you what it will look like. So, as you know, I like to show you the artwork. That's the sort of artwork we have in here. But I read it like this. So yes, this is a book about a boy who's going across the border from Mexico to America to go and live with his, I believe it was his grandparent, definitely a relative, and he meets a ghost on the way, and then it's just them two trying to escape the clutches of people that are trying to make them not cross over, trying to get to the other side, trying to survive, food, drink, all that jazz. And I enjoyed it to a point. I did think it fell into that trap that some graphic novels can fall into, where because they're so short it just feels like there's not enough time with anybody. There's only a couple of pages at the beginning where we meet his family, and I feel like it would have been nice to just have a little bit more of them, just so you felt that connection a bit more. And the whole connection with these two characters, it just didn't feel like it was there. So yeah, most of the things that I wasn't the biggest fan of in this book was just like, I needed more from everyone. But I appreciated the story in general, and the fact that it's about an immigrant trying to get to America, and both of the authors have been in that those sort of shoes, so it's very that. And obviously Pride month, the ghost guy has got a bit of a storyline about him being gay as well. And yeah, it was alright. I quite liked it. I liked what it was trying to do, but I felt like it could have been done better if they gave it like another 100 pages to really like bulk it out and give us a bit more. I wanted more from the characters talking to each other. I wanted a bit more depth. I felt a little bit surface level, but I appreciated it and I enjoyed it to a point. Next up, I read Boy Like Me by Simon James Green, and this one I absolutely loved. This is set in 94, I believe, yeah, 1994, where Section 28 was a thing in England. So basically, I mean, it feels like the whole world is going that way again, which is really horrific. But basically, Section 28 was where you were not allowed to talk about anything non-straight. You're not allowed to even acknowledge that it exists in schools. You could get done for it. You could get sacked if you said to a child, yes, gay people exist. Very that. So our main character is living his life trying to not explore anything. He doesn't even think of himself as gay at this point. He's sort of, he knows he's a bit different. But then his librarian hands him a book which has the cover of something else on it. But the book is actually, in fact, it is actually Dance on My Grave by Aidan Chambers. You should definitely read this, guys. If you enjoyed this, read it, because that's the source material-ish kind of. It talks about the book anyway. But yes, so in that book that he gets, it is actually Dance on My Grave, which is a book about two gay teenagers. And from there, there's this sort of back and forth with another person at school. They're writing in the margins of the books, and then, you know, they find out each other, and it's all about the school life. It's all about trying to exist in these times. There are some really hard reading bits in this, because it is a time of very blatant, in-your-face homophobia, and adults around you not caring because they're also very homophobic. So like, let me bully you, the adults don't care. So sometimes very annoying when you're reading this. You're just like, you're so annoying. But I absolutely adored this book. It was great. It was so different to Simon James Green in general, because normally he writes very whimsical, happy, fanciful, silly characters, but obviously this is a lot heavier topic. And I love the way it was written as well, because it was like, it was almost as if it was partly autobiographical, which it probably was, because Simon James Green was at school in this time, so like he did go through this stuff. And the way it was written, it even had footnotes, and I'm not really a fan of footnotes in general, but I actually enjoyed them in here because it was really fun the way they just interacted with the story. And I'm a nosy bastard, so I would love to know which parts of this book like actually based on real stuff and which part is added to like make a book, the whole thing, and add drama and stuff. I'm just so nosy. But yeah, it's amazing. Read it. Thank you. After that I read Timberdark by Darren Charlton. This was the sequel and final book in the duology that starts with the Wranglestone, and it's about this sort of a zombie apocalypse that's happened. And in the first book, all of like, well, we've got the one main character, but like all of his peeps live on a lake, so they live on little islands in the lake, so they stay away from the zombies. But then when it gets cold in winter, the lake freezes and then they can get across and stuff happens. This one, unfortunately, I didn't enjoy it as much. I gave it like a 3 stars. I just feel like there were certain things that they could have done and they didn't do. There's certain things that they should have pushed more. There's certain ways that they could have expressed what they was trying to express more. But it just fell to the meh side for me, very unfortunately, because I did really enjoy the first book in this series. But yeah, I feel like this book was trying to do something, but it didn't quite get to where it was trying to go. Like, it was trying to make a point about the world in general and how people act and things that happen, and it just didn't quite hit the mark. So yeah, it's just very unfortunate, because if it was done well, it would have been really interesting in a really cool way, like a cool twist on this story, but I just don't think it was quite done well. And also, miscommunication is one of my least favourite tropes, unless it's done well. Sophie Gonzalez, I'm talking to you because Sophie Gonzalez does it really well. But most other people don't know how to do it well. And in this book, like, the main character and this other character that we do meet in the first one, I mean, it's not really spoilers, you kind of know, that like, it's his boyfriend, basically. And oh my god, it's so annoying. They just don't talk to each other at all. It's just so irritating throughout the whole book. So that's another thing that I was not a fan of. Yeah, very unfortunate, because I did really enjoy the first book, but you know, it happens sometimes. After that, I read Not Otherwise Specified by Hannah Moskowitz, and I did enjoy this book. It is one that I've had for a very long time, and I've put on several TBRs in the past, and I finally read it, and I did really enjoy it, so I'm glad I did read it. So in here we are following Etta, and she's bisexual, and all of her, like, her friend group at school are lesbians, and because she's bi and she had a boyfriend, they all hate her now because biphobia. And then she is like a dancer. She wants to, well, she doesn't want to do, she does ballet, or she has done in the past, but it's like she's not white enough to be a ballerina. She also has an eating disorder, but she's not skinny enough to be classified as anorexic, because there's like some weird hoops you have to jump through to fit in the mold of what anorexic is, which is where the title Not Otherwise Specified comes in, because it's like she's got an eating disorder, but it's not otherwise specified because they can't actually put a name on it, because you have to have these classifications to be able to fit into that group to have the proper name, which is very just annoying for the people that are having it, I guess, because sometimes it's good to have a label, because then you can see what you're up against and try and fight it and stuff. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed this book. Like I said, it's mostly about her, and she meets this other girl in her sort of eating disorder group thing. They have a group sessions, and there's other girl there, and it's mostly about their friendship blossoming and her sort of trying to be her own person and do her own thing, and getting these other friends that are not as toxic. And yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it, so I'm glad I finally read it. We're halfway through, so let's head on over to a message from one of the spawns, and then I shall be back with the rest of the books. Are you using him as a pillow, sir? Don't blame you. So after that I read The Do's and Donuts of Love by Adiba Jagadar, and this was just a really fun time. So it's basically like the Great British Bake Off, but it's the Irish Bake Off, and it's for like young like teenagey people, and that's where this story happens. So it's based on this show, so there's some drama around the show, because obviously stuff's produced, isn't it? So certain things happen, or certain words are twisted when they're doing the little talkie interview things. We all know how reality TV goes, right? But basically our main character is one of the people that gets onto the show, and then when she gets there she realises her ex-girlfriend is also there, and then she's paired with her. So there's all that mischief, grief, drama. And then there's this other girl as well that she's like kinda getting to know, becoming friends. Are they catching feelings? Are they not? Are they just being friendly? And yeah, it was just a fun time. It was just good. I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as the other two books, but I didn't dislike it in any way. It's just fun. If you want just a fun read, read it. If you like baking, read it, because it's all about baking different desserty things. And if you like reality TV, maybe also read it. It's a fun time. After that I read Different for Boys, which is by Patrick Ness, and also T. Bendix, I want to say, who is the like artist. It's kind of part normal story, part graphic novel. I read it on my phone actually, not even my Kindle, so the way it's set out then might not even be what it's like in actual physical form, but there's words and there's quite a lot of pictures as well that go with the words. This was super short. I think it was under 100 pages, and it's just this really small story, if that makes any sense. So there's this one guy, and it's his group of friends, but some of them are not friends of each other. Some of them used to be friends. One of them went to a different school and has come back. So it's like the different dynamics. But also his like, one of his best friend is always taking a piss out of one of his other friends for being gay, but then also him and that said best friend do stuff when they're on their own, but don't talk about it, so it doesn't count, sort of thing. And it's just like, that is basically the premise of the whole thing. Like I said, it's really short, it's just really small. It's just about these like 4 characters, and it's not really a story. I did enjoy it. I liked what it was trying to do, but it's not like, if you're after a story, a novel, if you're after like a beginning, middle and end, it's not really that. It's just sort of this start of a story, kind of. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was alright, yeah. It's very sort of hard to talk about because it doesn't even really, it's not really even a thing, but it is a thing. But I can't say, and then this happens, and this potentially happens, because like, that's the story, it's done. So yeah, I liked it though. After that I read The Name Bearer, which is by Natalia Hernandez. This is the first book in, I don't know whether it's going to be like a duology, a trilogy, a series or whatever. But basically I read this book because one of my friends wanted to buddy read a book, and this was like the only one I could get hold of that they already owned. So I was like, yeah, I'll read it, I can get it for free on my Kindle. Unfortunately I wasn't a massive fan. It's really weird because as I'm talking about these books, it's like I really liked one, and then one was alright, and then I really liked one, and then it was like meh, and then it feels like it's been that sort of month. But yeah, with this one, I feel like the first quarter, maybe even the first third, I think it was only just over 200 pages, maybe like 250 at most, but like the first third was an absolute slog to get through because I felt so bored. I didn't care about any character, I didn't care about anything that was happening. The writing was really nice, don't get me wrong, the writing was pretty, like the way there was stuff was explained and stuff, you know, like, oh, here's a pretty garden and stuff's happening, and the trees look nice, and this dress looks really nice, but like I didn't care about anything, which is really unfortunate because that's kind of the whole point of reading. And I felt like it was just a really weird concept. It took me a while to get behind the concept. So it's like these bees pick a person between like the age of 1 and 5 to become the name bearer, who will then go and talk to these flowers anytime a royal person has a baby, and the flowers will tell them what name that baby should have. And like, first of all, that's just like, it feels just really convoluted, personally, in my opinion. And so like that whole starting section, I just didn't care. And then there was this whole section where our main character goes to like a school thing, and she has a group of friends, like 4 friends, and like, as I was reading it, I could not tell you the difference between any of them. They were just all blended into one. They were just names. Like, one of them was her bestie, and she sort of got more of a storyline, more of a character, like more character. But like the other 3 were just the same person in my eyes. And as I was reading it, they'd listen like, oh, and this person's really good at the, because it's like a fighting academy. It's a fantasy. I haven't really said anything. Well, you can tell, there's bees that tell people a name. But yeah, But like all the other characters were just blended into one and they just weren't a thing. It just didn't capture me in any way. But like the last third, let's say, the middle third was alright. The first third I found very boring. I started skim reading it a little bit because it was just so boring, and I was on a holiday and I was like, I don't want to read a really boring book on holiday. I was reading it on the plane and I was like, this is boring. But yeah, and then the last third I actually really enjoyed. Like, they went to the next bit of the story, we met new characters that actually had characterization and interesting things were happening, and there were fights that were interesting and written well. So like, it felt really disconnected. The first half of it I was like, this is just boring, and then the last bit of it I really enjoyed. But like, I don't know if I'd carry it on. If I could guarantee that the story would carry on like the last bit and it'd be interesting and fun and the characters be good, then potentially. But like, yeah, potentially not also, unfortunately. And then last but not least, I read Transmogrify. Well, not last really, I read it all the way through the month because this is 14 fantastical tales of trans magic. And normally I'm very hit or miss, mostly miss, with short story collections. So I have talked about this in the past before, but a lot of the time with short story collections, there'll be really good ones, there'll be good ones, and then there'll be some mediocre ones thrown through, and it will like bring your whole enjoyment down. But this time it didn't happen. I actually really enjoyed all of the little stories, and there's not one story that comes to my mind that I thought, oh, that one was crap, or that one wasn't as good, or that one was written badly, which happens in like every other anthology that I read. So I feel like this has been curated really, really well. But yeah, 14 tales about trans non-binary characters in a magical setting. So you've got all sorts of stuff in here. You've got like weird, creepy stuff. You've got like high school, but make it a magic high school stuff. You've got a story from the perspective of the building. And it's just like, there's loads of really fun stuff going on. And yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. So give it a read. And like, there's also a lot of BIPOC authors in here. I know there's a neurodiverse author in here. There's just like loads of different authors that bring in loads of different stuff. You got like Fat Rep, different like trans and non-binary rep as well, different pronouns being used. So yeah, there's just like a whole host of different fun things. So I'm sure you'll find something good in here, or maybe loads of good stuff in here like I did. And some of them are longer than others, but I enjoyed all of them. So boom. So there we go, those are all the books that I read in June. A mixed bag, but I had a 5-star in there, and I've only had 3 5-stars this whole year because I'm a picky bastard. So that's alright, even if some of the other ones weren't up to par. Let me know down below what you read in June, if you read any of these, if they sound interesting, just any words down below, that's what it's there for. Write some things if you want, and yeah, check out some of my other videos if you want, subscribe if you want, like if you want, and I'll be back in a few days with another video. Bye.